So welcome to MCN's Sportsbike of the Year 2023. For the second year running as well, it's the Panigale V4 S, which is sort of the epitome of the brilliance and pointlessness and extraordinarily sexiness that's all wrapped into this one single package. It's a gorgeous thing to behold, but it's absolutely packed full of electricity and power whilst being lighter than it's ever been. So we're talking about 213 brake horsepower, 195.5 kilos ready to ride. It's an extraordinary package. But while it sort of sounds like it ought to be too much for the road and the track, and maybe too much for us mere mortals, actually it's surprisingly good to ride and surprisingly easy to ride. And no one knows more about that than Carl, who was actually on the launch for this bike at Jerez. We're not jealous at all. So rolling out a pit lane, first time on the bike, how did it feel?
I've got to say, it blew me away. So the first time we actually rode out a pit lane, it was wet, and in wet mode it's restricted on power, and I could not believe I was sitting on a fire breathing Panigale V4. The first iteration was brutal, and every iteration since has just got easier to ride. And when we
That's
got
incredible, isn't it? Because they put more and more power in, take more and more weight out, more electronics, but actually they do get easier to ride, don't they? Every single iteration.
I think that's the beauty of it. If you look at a spec sheet, you could quite easily be sort of blown away. You could quite easily get lost in that power, in that torque, in the weight figures. But you jump on it and it can be as easy to ride as you want. Like simple little things like the way that Ducati have mapped the electronics and the way that the power is delivered, especially in the lower gears. It makes it such an easy bike to ride. And in turn, that actually allows you to ride faster because you're not focusing on if it's going to throw you to the sky or little things like that. And they complete the package with some of the most incredible components. Like those Brembos are some of the best standard brakes in the business. They offer so much stopping power, and the way that the ABS is dialed in, it's just sublime. You don't get any intrusion whatsoever on track, which is incredible, even in hard braking zones. It's amazing how something of this power, of this stature, can make someone of our level feel so much like a riding god. Yet on the launch, we was riding alongside Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco, and the shapes that those boys were throwing on.
Did you show them the way around?
I didn't even see them.
Did you tap the tail at all? Just follow me for a couple of laps.
The way that the window that this bike works in is just incredible, because they were on bog standard bikes and they were able to maximise the potential of it and have as much fun as we were having. And of course, semi-active suspension on this one as well. So yeah, and the semi-active suspension feels so refined as well. Alongside the little tweaks they've done with the chassis, it feels just a bit sort of softer to ride. It feels, especially if you're running at a slower speed, it feels a lot more at home, whereas the old ones, you really had to ride them hard and sort of tie them in knots to get the best out of them. You couldn't really feel like the chassis was coming alive, could you? You had to push it so hard that it's kind of not very rewarding to ride, whereas now the semi-active gives you that ability to dial it down and to match the circumstances you're riding in and the situation you're riding, which of course is great when you take it to the road. Exactly, and that's the beauty of it. Even though it's still a fire-breathing beast, it's still packing more power and torque than most of us know what to do with. It's still user-friendly, it's easy to ride, and that is exactly why it's won our Sports Bike of the Year. It's just an incredible machine that caters for every ability and does so with incredible ease.